Okay, so this is section 6.3. I'm going to do examples 5 and 6 in this video. All right, so here's example 5. We're going to write a linear combination of unit vectors. We're going to let vector u be the vector with the initial point of 2, -5 and terminal point of -1, 3. You want to write vector u as a linear combination of the standard unit vectors I and j. Now, we have not talked about what a linear combination is, and we haven't talked about I and j. I and j are vectors. This is going to be your horizontal component, and this is going to be your vertical component. Okay, so I'll explain that as we go along. All right, so first thing I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and draw out this vector. So I know the vector has an initial point of 2, -5 and a terminal point of -1, 3. All right, let me go ahead and connect those. Okay, so that is that vector. Now this vector is not in standard position. In other words, the initial point is not on the origin. So that's one of the things I'm going to need to do is to go ahead and put it on the origin or put it in standard position. To do that, I need to move the initial point to the origin, and the direction that I move the initial point, I'm going to move the terminal point also. So I'm going to go, say, up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, on the left 2. This becomes the initial point, and the same thing here, up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and left 2. So now this is what I have. Okay, now there are a couple different ways to do this. I have graph paper, so I'm going to try and visually show you how to do this. This vector, we called it vector u, is now in standard position, and its terminal point is left 3, up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So left 3, up 8. So that is the component form of this vector. Okay, now mathematically, I can take the initial point of, let's say the initial point, well, what was it, 2, -5. And the terminal point was -1, 3. I can take terminal x minus initial x. Oops, I don't want actually any grouping symbol right there. And take the terminal y and subtract the initial y. I get -3 and I get +8. So mathematically I can do it this way, graphically I can do it this way. Okay, so I now have it in component form, and I want to write it as a linear combination. Now, as I mentioned, I is going to be the horizontal component, and j is going to be the vertical component. So in other words, I went left 3, so that's going to be -3i, and I also went up 8, so that would be 8j. So this is going to be the linear combination of that vector, okay, well, of this vector right here. So just remember, if you have a vector that is not in standard position, put it in standard position, either graphically or algebraically or mathematically, right here. And then once you get the component form, the first number, whatever it might be, goes with the I, second number goes with the J, put a plus sign in between. Okay, I put a plus sign because the 8 is positive, by the way. If that 8 was negative, I'll put a minus sign. So this is example number 5. All right, example number 6. Dealing with vector operations, but we're dealing with vector operations in linear combination form. So This is the exact same vector that we were just dealing with, vector u, which was negative 3i plus 8j. And then we have vector v, which is 2i minus j. So remember, we had the minus sign. So that means right here, we're going right 2 and down 1. We want to find 2u minus 3v. So to do that, I'm going to go ahead and I can keep it in as a linear combination. I can switch it over to component form. Component form for this would be negative 3, 8. And component form for this would be 2, negative 1. I can do that, or I can just leave it alone. I'm going to go ahead and leave it alone. So I want to find 2u minus 3v. So let me just go ahead and put in the linear combination for vector u. I want to subtract 3 times the linear combination of vector v. For the most part, I'm going to distribute. So 2 times negative 3 gives me negative 6i. 2 times positive 8 gives me a positive 16j. Negative 3 times 2 gives me a negative 6i. And negative 3 times negative j gives me a positive 3j. And then it would basically combine like terms. Let's start with the i's first because I is written first. Negative 6 and negative 6 gives me a negative 12i. And then 16 plus the 3 gives me a positive 19j. All right, so that is example 6. All right, so if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. Otherwise, go ahead and move on to the next video.